Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. We can just see that the attendee list is populating, so we're just going to wait around 20 seconds just to let everyone get settled into the webinar here today, and then we'll jump in. Awesome. So let's get started. Thanks again for joining today's webinar on the 5 steps to improving your omnichannel customer journey. Providing a seamless customer experience is crucial as users now navigate through your digital ecosystem through a variety of devices and mediums. Today, we'll be looking at the steps that you can take to elevate your customer experience from subpar to super. So today's webinar is hosted by myself, Coralie Wood. I've worked in digital for over 10 years and have a first-hand experience of how improving your customer experience can drive better results. And joining me is LoginRadius Product Marketing Manager, Alice Liang. Alice is passionate about empowering companies to drive exceptional results by creating unified customer identities. Before we get started, we do just want to let you know that there is a Q&A section at the end of today's webinar, and you should see a questions pane on your screen. Please feel free to ask anything you would like as we move along, and we'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can. We do also have a free offer that we'll be discussing at the end of today's webinar. It's something that's sure to help you enhance your customer experience, so we definitely recommend that you stay tuned for that. Awesome, let's get started. I'll hand over to Alice.
Great, thanks, Coralie. So just to get started, I want to basically do a little rundown of what we're going to be covering today. So agenda today is really going to be broken down to kind of 3 sections. We're going to touch on what is omnichannel. So what does it mean to have an omnichannel customer experience and to provide it for your customers. Then we're going to move on to some problems of a disconnected experience. So essentially how the complications of not recognizing your customers at different touch points and really how that has an impact on your ability to understand who they are and your revenue as well. And then we're going to discuss the 5 steps to personalize interactions with every customer. Those 5 steps to really help you understand who your customers are, to build that unified, seamless experience for your customers, and really kind of so they'll come back and keep engaging and do business with you. So to start off, what is omnichannel? Before we really move into the definition of omnichannel, I just want to paint a little picture for you first. So meeting a customer is really meeting any new person, right? So you meet someone new for the first time, you introduce yourself, you provide your name and just basic information. And as you interact more and more with that person, you expect them to remember and recognize you, right? And the more they remember, the better the conversations you're going to have, and the more that you'll like and trust that person. So engaging with your customers is the same. New customers are exactly the same way in terms of how they engage with you. Expect to be remembered. They expect their interactions with you to be better and better every single time when they return to your platform, when they return to your store. And then basically, and then the more interactions that they have. So the definition of omnichannel, an omnichannel customer experience is made up of individual customer touchpoints over a number of channels that are all seamlessly connected. So for example, if you have a mobile app, a website, and maybe maybe like a physical store, those are all different touch points. So touch points is really where you have those customer interactions. And then an omnichannel allows the customers to pick up where they left off in one channel and continue that same experience on another. So for example, if a customer puts something on their wish list in the mobile app, they can come see the exact same thing what they did on the app when they log into their account online through the website. So the evolution of omnichannel, the experience, the customer experience has really evolved in the past, few years, 10, 20 years as technology really, with the technology advancements. So before, it's really a physical location. Your customers had to come to a physical location to do business with you, to do any kind of interactions, order services, purchase items, things like that. Then as new and more channels were added as new ways of communication with the emergence of internet and things like that, online shopping, those are all considered new channels. And they're really, and then kind of at that point, those businesses are trying to figure out then how do we expand our physical stores and to include all these other channels where essentially we're giving our customers more ways to interact with us. And now, as that kind of got going, technology has expanded to the point where we're really up against the reality of omnichannel. And what that really means is now that there's so many channels, you're really, when they're all being disconnected, you're getting a fragmented view of someone, right? So omnichannel is how do we bring all those different pieces together, all those different channels together to form that one single unified view of a customer to really understand who they are as a single person rather than just bits and pieces from the app, from the website, from in-store and things like that. And when we talk about channels, it's really all the different touch points, all the different areas where that customer has interactions with you, with the company, right? So it can go from anywhere from physical channels such as stores, partner locations, resellers, and to communication, emails, chats, to any kind of social media, websites, and things like that. And even connect to your internal channels such as, billing, customer service. So really purchase history. So really this again is not limited. It's really anything and anywhere that touches on that customer, where that customer, any kind of interaction with that customer is considered a channel. And kind of wrapping it all up, this is a really good quote to kind of wrap everything up. So it's moving from a disconnected, siloed CX to a truly unified CX will be an important step in order to maintain and improve that customer experience. This has been true over the last 25 years, but the difference now is that it's no longer a nice to have. So kind of improving that customer experience, providing something that's, generating high customer satisfaction is no longer just a nice to have. It's no longer just a perk. It's now become a necessity. So in terms of, with the emergence, again, of technology, you don't need a brick and mortar store in order to sell services, to sell items. Lots of things are moving online, applications, websites, and things like that. Consumers now have more choice than they've ever had. So it's really easy for someone to not have a good experience and then move their business somewhere else, to a competitor brand, to something else that has very similar services. So this is really kind of that customer service, that understanding of your customers is really kind of your differentiator when it comes to competing with other players in the same industry. So kind of at a glance, just thought I'd put this together into a more kind of personal use case for you. So omnichannel at a glance, ideally, this is kind of how it would work. So for example, John is a new customer. He creates an account online in this super simple process, enters in his email address, password, and probably some newsletter preferences so we know kind of email communication to send to him. And then kind of throughout the process, after that, John receives a newsletter catered to his site activity. So he probably has pushed some stuff in his wish lists, his browsing activity. So he sees messaging that's relevant to what he's looked at. He sees something that he likes, but then maybe it's a larger piece, maybe it's a furniture item or something that he wants to see in person before purchasing. So he goes to the store, likes it, purchases it, and then the cashier asks him for his email address to locate his account, gives his email address, and then kind of the expectation here is once you provide that email address, John expects the cashier to know that he already has an account, that he has already filled in the required information, maybe there's shipping involved or anything like that, already has the required information on the account. He shouldn't have to repeat that information. The most that he has to do is maybe just verify that that is the most up-to-date information that store has on him, right? Once the purchase is made, John expects to be able to view the details of his purchase whenever he logs into his account, whether it be on the website or on the app or any other way. And then kind of on another end, in terms of communication, John should only receive information that are relevant to his preferences, that are relevant building onto his past purchases, basically anything that is relevant to him and his experiences and nothing else. And again, that is more of an ideal situation. So in terms of a disconnected experience, there are a few problems that can occur. So if those expectations aren't met, let's say if the store clerk couldn't recognize John, or his profile couldn't be pulled up, those are all some problems. So one of the main problems that customers experience in this case is they feel like they're not being heard, right? So for example, if after the purchase, John is still receiving emails for the exact same thing he just bought and no longer needs, or if he's getting prompted to, finish a transaction online when he's already made the purchase in store, things like that, he's getting irrelevant messaging sent to him, he's going to start ignoring any kind of communications from the company, because to him, they're not relevant and they're not really understanding what he's already done. They're essentially not listening to him and not paying attention to his customer journey with that company. And another side of the problem of a disconnected experience is a waste of time. So let's say if the cashier was not able to pull up John's information during that kind of in-store interaction, John has to repeat the information he has already provided. He should not have to. And it really is a decrease in customer satisfaction. No one likes to repeat themselves. If a customer is standing there having to repeat something that they've already provided, that they feel like the company should already have, then again, it's impatience, it results in decrease in customer satisfaction, and it makes them feel like their time is not being respected. On the flip side, that time that cashier is taken to have John repeat all those information that they should already have means that they're able to serve less customers. And less customers served also equals out to less revenue for the company. So that kind of ties into why omnichannel, why that unified customer experience is very crucial. Customers don't like it when companies don't remember who they are. And again, it's by having to reinstate and re-enter information is a waste of customers' time, and it really makes them feel like the company doesn't care about who they are or their past experiences with that company. So a quick survey shows that 78% of consumers are frustrated by having to repeat the same information to multiple employees or through multiple channels, right? And I think as consumers, on average, a good portion of us have that experience where we might call into a support line and having to repeat those all of our personal details all over again, and then being transferred to a different department and having to do it all over again. So no one likes to repeat themselves, and we kind of have to put ourselves in the consumer's shoes in that sense that, well, how do we make that process better for them if it's something that we also don't like to do ourselves. And then 56% of consumers complain about a company not having a full picture of their transactions. Right now, it's really kind of an age of transparency. People want to be able to log in online. People want to be able to kind of see their past transactions, see their information whenever they want, right? So it's mobile on the website or anything, or if they call in or go in the store, they want to be able to have access to their full information they have within the company at any point that is convenient to them. So that's why, again, having a centralized kind of unified customer profile, having a centralized experience is very important. And again, this all leads back to the financial health of the company. So satisfied customers means that they're more likely to return, and the retention rate is much higher, and which means a higher recurring revenue for the company as well. And then, having said that, we can take a closer look at how the customer experience really has an impact on your revenue. So it's really kind of comes down to lost opportunities to maximize the revenue as well. So by having that full understanding, by having the customers come back, by having that unified experience, you're able to kind of be able to cater to those people. You're able to kind of communicate better with them, right? So by kind of creating a disconnected experience between all of your channels, you're really adding to the customer's frustration. And frustrated customers are not as engaged and not as loyal, right? And you're probably always going to be on the lookout for something better. As long as something even the same comes along, but that just provides a better customer experience, they're ready to jump ship and move on over and provide and bring their business to that competitor company. So some of the results of disengaged customers include cart abandonment, service or subscription cancellation, or just simply moving their businesses to a different brand. Accenture did a survey in 2017. So an estimated global value of customers moving to a different brand is 6.6 trillion. So throughout the past couple of years, as we know, the cost of goods and services have only gone up and not down. So if it was 6.6 trillion in 2017, we can only imagine this number to be higher now in 2019. So again, this kind of like really nicely wraps up that impact on revenue, where business is failing to fully integrate identity with a wider customer engagement strategies, risk fragmented, disjointed customer experiences, and customer attrition. Not to mention the inability to capitalize on customer data and insights that will help to inform decision-making and enhance overall customer experience. So that kind of brings it back. Having that unified customer channel, not only does it help improve that customer experience, on the flip side, it helps improve your team to have a better understanding of who they are. When it's only, you can really only effectively market and communicate with your customers when you understand who they are. If not, you might just come across as either customers might think of you as either being ignorant or just not caring, and they'll go ahead and they'll find someone else who will be able to provide them with that individual and kind of make them feel like their businesses matter. So having said that, how do we improve the omni-channel experience? So really the way to do this is to make the customers feel like that you care. You care about them as an individual. You want to provide them with, you want to essentially have a way to consolidate all the different digital channels and online, offline channels that you have into a single channel, right? You want to make it feel like before, when it was just a store the customers have to go to, they're greeted, hey, how's it going? Thanks for coming to visit. They want to have that kind of personalized experience online as well, even though there's all these touch points. They want to feel cared for and with all the different touch points and melt that into one. And digital identity is really that connection between a person and your digital systems. So there are 5 steps that we've kind of broken down how you can really improve that experience. We made it into a little simple acronym called SUPER, which stands for streamline, unify, personalize, engage, and retain. So kind of what that looks like, breaking it down, is streamline is to really make it easy for your customers to connect with you. You want to streamline that registration and login process across all of your multiple channels to make it easy for your customers to create an account and start their customer journey with you. So in this one, simplicity kind of means in that like use case we saw with John earlier, it's very simple kind of page. First name, last name, possibly email, and maybe just another a password, and maybe just another like preferencing, like email preference something. Just make it very simple and easy for the customers to start engaging with you. Again, over here, simplicity and ease of use is the key. So step 2 is unify. So you want to be able to unify all their information, having all in one place. So it's really all about recognizing your customer, having all of their information in one place. And not only does this give your customers kind of a good customer experience, so they are always kind of seeing the same thing regardless of what touch points they're coming in from. It's also helpful for your team to have a well-rounded understanding of who your customers are. It's really only having that good understanding of your customers will your team be able to kind of strategize and provide interactions that are meaningful to your customers. So this really kind of brings it down to that relationship building. Building out that one relationship, that one individual over time is a lot better than making that customer kind of engage with you through kind of multiple shallow touch points and not have any of them connect to form a relationship. And then once you have that well-rounded understanding of your customers, you can then kind of move on to step 3, which is personalize. So this is, again, that understanding of your customers will help you improve your marketing communication strategies. In this sense, you can provide your customers with relevant emails, relevant content, relevant messaging that speaks to their interests and recent activities and the most recent interactions with you. So this, again, kind of comes back to showing your customers that you care, showing the customers that you're taking note of their activities, that you are listening, and that you care about their transactions, and that you care about them having a meaningful relationship with you, and that you're providing only the stuff that are most relevant to them. And then 4 is engage. So once you've personalized the messaging, once you're able to kind of craft out individualized communications with your customers, really this is where that engagement piece comes in. With the personalized messages and offers, customers are more likely to engage with your brand even further. And this is crucial to the longevity of your customer relationship. Really, if they feel like they're being cared for, that they matter, that they're being heard, the chances of them, continuing to interact with you is much higher. And then the piece of that, as you kind of engage with them over time, build up that relationship, that's also where that retention will come in. So the key here, again, is to make sure that your customers feel seen and they're well served. So this is, again, where that omnichannel comes in, because you have that centralized view of your customers. You know exactly how to, you're able to see all their interactions, multiple touch points, personalize those messaging, and kind of that is how you're using to build a trusted relationship and to make sure that the customers are coming back to you, right? I mean, in this sense, even if down the line another product, something comes along that is very similar to yours, chances are they will stay with you because they already have that relationship, because they know that you care, and because as a customer, they want to stay with you. So just an overview of the 5 steps. Again, you want to first streamline and simplify the access for your customers, make sure that they can easily interact with you. And from all the different touch points, you want to gather that information into a single profile for both the customer experience, so they can always pick up right where they left off, and also for you and your company to have a good understanding of who your customers are. Once you have that understanding, you can really then personalize the messaging and interactions with that customer, which then leads to engagement, right? When you send out personalized messages, when customers feel like they're being heard, when they actually, that you're kind of showing them some attention, they're more likely to engage and see what you have to say and see what you have to offer. And with that engagement, ongoing engagement usually helps building that relationship, that person to person, or that customer relationship, which again kind of turns to retention, customer retention, because you've shown that you understand who they are and what they need, and that you care about them as a customer and to keep them and their businesses with you. All right, so just a quick wrap-up overview of the omnichannel customer experience. It's, again, really important to create that connected journey across all of your customer touch points, from both online to offline, and kind of reaching and exceeding those customer expectations and customer satisfactions directly affects your company revenue and has a direct impact on your company's bottom line. And really, it's not that difficult. There are kind of a few simple steps, the 5 steps that you can take to create a more connected omnichannel experience to improve your customers' engagement and retention.
Awesome, thanks, Alice. So as Alice was just saying, it's really important to make sure you are creating a connected customer experience, but it can be really hard to know where to start with this. And that's where LoginRadius would like to help. So for attendees of today's webinar, we're offering you an opportunity to obtain a free assessment of your customer journey on your website. In this assessment, we're going to help you understand how you can unify your customer's experience and increase engagement and retention. We're going to be sending out an email shortly where you can claim your assessment, and there's also going to be a link to a video where you can watch the webinar again in your own time. We obviously covered a lot of information today, so if there's anything you just want to go over and re-watch, you can have the opportunity to do that. So that does wrap up today's webinar. We do just have a few minutes left for some questions. So I can see we've had a couple of questions that have come in. Alice, the first question we have here is, what are the most common methods that you can use to improve your customer experience?
So the most common is really kind of want to begin by assessing what your current customer experience might be, right? So the most common could be just even just simplifying, looking at your registration and login forms, kind of that first customer touch point and seeing what those customers are seeing. Maybe, you know, if your bounce rate is too high, maybe is the form too long? Maybe you're asking them to provide too much information up front before you've really started to build up that relationship. So we actually have a digital trends report coming out next week, and one of the findings that we found was most effective registration forms have about 5 to 7 fields, and that's kind of including first name, last name, email, password, and maybe just 1 or 2 key questions to get that customer started.
Great. And another question we have here is just asking if we could explain a little bit more about what we mean when we say unified profile.
Right, so unified profile means, okay, so let's say, for example, just very simply, maybe your company has 3 touch points, a website, a mobile app, and a store, a physical store. When one customer comes to each of those touch points, they're all separate touch points, right? So really you're having a little bit of that customer information kind of divided up into a little online interaction, in-app interaction, and in-store interaction. So what we mean by unified profile is really tying all those 3 interactions together so you can look at a customer and see and really kind of have a full picture to see, okay, this is what your online interactions were, this is what your mobile interactions were, and this is what your in-store interactions were, to really, for you to have a full picture of that customer rather than just fragmented views of that person in different stages.
Awesome. And then I think just time for one last question here. So we've got a question on what is the average annual revenue that a company could lose as a direct result of a poor customer experience?
So the average annual revenue, it's a bit hard to say because it really differs and depends on the company size and really just the industries and verticals that they're in. But what we found is kind of on average, the customers who request forgot password emails, on average, 15% of those customers will never actually follow through and reset a password, which means you have people who are trying to access your website who are somehow not able to log in, and maybe it's just the resetting password is too difficult or too lengthy or whichever. Essentially, 15% of those customers will never come back to reset the password and interact with you ever again. Kind of putting that into numbers is, for example, you have 100 customers per day who are requesting to reset their passwords. And out of that, 15% does not follow through. And let's say if on average these 100 people spend $100 per day, by 15 people not resetting, you're really losing at least $1,500 per day. Imagine if this happens every day or even every few days, this does add up to a significant amount of revenue lost.
Yes, I think, with that, we would definitely encourage people to kind of take a look at their own internal statistics. As you mentioned, we do have an industry trends report that's coming out that you'll be able to access shortly with a lot more information kind of around the same theme. And, we definitely encourage people to take a look at their own internal data. For some companies, maybe you'll find that it's not actually a huge amount that you're losing. But then when you look at it over a week or a month or a year or even a couple of years, that can really add up to a lot of revenue. So again, just really important to see how just even small changes to our customer experience can add up to a lot of revenue over time. So I think we're just about out of time here for today's webinar. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. As mentioned, make sure you look out for that email where we'll be sending through the opportunity to claim that free assessment. And let's see how much money that you could be making just by improving that customer journey. So thanks, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you on a future webinar.